Could conduct me.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the February meeting of CB11's Executive Committee. My name is Jessica Elliott, and I am the Vice Chair of this committee. The meeting is called to order at 6:39 p.m. Tonight, we're joined by a staff liaison to our committee, Angel Muscane. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, I'm gonna hold you to that today. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Jose Altamirano. Stephanie Arroyo. Adem Brija.
Present.
Rosa Diaz.
Present.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Nelson Orama.
Present.
Claudia Perez. Asher Rodriguez.
Present.
Xavier Santiago. Isaac Scott. Anne Marie Vasquez. Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Michelle Wilcher Clement.
On screen. Present.
Alright, we're one short of one.
Okay, we'll now, seeing that a quorum is not present at this time, an effort to obtain quorum will stand in recess for a period not to exceed 10 minutes. Quorum is not present at the end of this recess, the meeting will be adjourned. Any outstanding business will be considered at a future meeting. Okay, that's it. We're now in recess. All right, we will now take attendance by roll call. Committee members, please answer present when your name is called.
Jose Altamirano. Stephanie Arroyo. Adem Brija.
Present.
Rosa Diaz.
Present.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Nelson Orama.
Present.
Claudia Perez. Asher Rodriguez.
Present.
Xavier Santiago. Isaac Scott. Anne Marie Vasquez. Jason Villanueva.
Present.
Michelle Wilcher Clement.
Present.
All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand to be recognized. Nilsa.
I'd just like to, I'd like to add two pieces to the agenda, for consideration. One is under home business to consider attendance, so we can have a more full discussion, as well as, bylaws. So that we can bring up our ideas and see how we would move forward, if that's the thing.
All right. Any objections? Second by Asher. I will add them to the agenda. I would also like to add to the agenda, if possible, just a quick conversation about supporting the staff, if no one
Absolutely.
disagrees. Okay. So now we will have 3 new items under new business, attendance, I guess that's old business. Support for staff and bylaws under new business. Thank you. All right. The agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting were distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, may raise your hand to be recognized. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. The minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by myself eventually. Are there any announcements? All right, go ahead.
Tomorrow, the East Harlem Community Partnership is going to have a resource fairs, quote unquote, know your rights, at 4 p.m. in 71 East 111th Street, 2nd floor. Please let your families know. We are here to support everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Any other announcements? Any informational updates? All right, we'll move into our first presentation and discussion, which was our preliminary budget response vote. As you know, we had district needs and budget committee meeting yesterday. The committee reviewed the statement in its entirety. We had excellent contributions from the Youth and Education Committee, the Health and Human Services Committee. We had contributions from the Housing Committee and the Public Safety and Transportation Committee. And just so everyone knows, I think I've been repeating this a lot, but the district needs, the statement for the preliminary budget was only focused on the budget requests that we submitted this cycle. Anything that is aspirational or new requests, new considerations is part of our work that we're doing in the committee towards the new statement of district needs narrative document. And that work will inform the work of committees and vice versa. So if you haven't heard from anyone on the district needs committee, you will as chairs of your committee. We want to confirm goals. We want to confirm any committee action items that you've had this year and are expecting through the rest of the year. And we really basically want to align the work of the committee and the committee actions with the actual requests that are being submitted so that every request is supported by an action of the committee.
I have a question
Yeah.
just about district needs and budget and since it's not the vice chairs on the committee anymore, is there a list of who's supposed to be the liaisons? I know
Yes.
who mine is, but I know for some other committees, it's very, I'm not saying this is your fault, but there's like people not responding, that the chairs are having to do it.
Yeah.
For their committee, when technically it's supposed to be the liaison, the whole point is, yeah.
Well, so great question, and I can send this list out to everyone, but to narrow it down, there's policy areas that are responded to in the narrative that don't always necessarily align with like the committees, how they're organized. So for example, healthcare and human services, that's pretty straightforward, right? It's me and David who are gonna be working with Isaac's committee on the policy area of health and human services. Then if we continue on youth education and child welfare, obviously that goes with youth and education.
But what I'm saying is, when I was at least on the committee, it was, because I'm the youth and education, because I was youth and education vice chair, I was only working on youth and education. Isn't it a little bit better where one person is assigned to one committee, so that way, and David was excellent helping me with it, but I know he had other stuff to do,
Yeah.
so it's like, I don't think it's fair for one person to be working for multiple committees when there's enough people on the district needs committee to be able to spread it out evenly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we have representation from every committee on the district needs committee, so people have doubled up across different policies.
So how did it come about that it wasn't the vice chairs doing it?
Because the vice chairs weren't doing their job.
So this is a small committee of doers-ish.
Yeah,
It's a good committee of people who are willing to do the work.
okay.
But I think eventually the goal would be to move back to the vice chairs being on the committee, because that makes the most sense. It's just that, yeah,
Yeah,
it just didn't work out this year, so that's where we're at.
okay.
Just to run through it really quickly, public safety and emergency services is Sage and Stephanie. Youth and education, I didn't say, was Derek and David.
I have,
Okay, Derek's out of the country right now, so give him a minute. Core infrastructure, city services and resiliency is me, David and Derek. Housing, economic development and land use, so that's unfortunate because it's all three of those things in one policy area, is Kenneth, Sage and Judith. And then transportation and mobility is Sage, Kenneth and Derek. Parks, cultural and community facilities is me and David. So that's where we're at. All right, did everyone have a chance to quickly review the statement on the fiscal year 2026 preliminary budget?
I don't think we ever did.
No, we're definitely not gonna read it again.
I think
Are there any questions or comments on the document at hand? Then I will entertain a motion.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a question?
No, real quick. I wanted to just double check something real quick. Can I
Okay.
Just get like 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
While we're waiting. Yeah, it's kind of I appreciate everyone's patience. It's really.
All right.
Waiting copy.
Yes. For sure. I just want to make sure.
Yes.
All right, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the committee's recommendation. Can I? Add a little something? Is it possible?
I don't, I'm not really interested. in
With all
this.
due respect, Chair, I
Yes.
motion.
All right, motion is accepted. A second by Asher.
Now, if there wants to be a friendly amendment, we can hear
No,
it,
it
but,
wasn't a friendly amendment, it was just a comment.
oh, you could comment, but
Yeah,
we're
what's your
we're
comment?
moving, we're voting.
I just thought that the letter seemed very nice.
Let's,
Well, like,
so let me reiterate, this is a reestablishing, writing the ship year. This is a very straightforward document that says what it needs to say without any embellishments, because I basically wrote it myself with the help of some people. So this upcoming year, we are able to add embellishment. So for example, Isaac's committee added statistics about different things that help to aid the narrative in his policy areas, which is really helpful. I did not have the ability to do that with every section. So when we get to add more color next year, it can, it can be a slightly different version of this document, but this was getting the answers out that we needed to get out. So there's a motion on the floor made by Jason and seconded by Asher. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention from Michelle. All right, and we will ratify that at full board, correct? Angels?
Okay,
All right, we'll move along to the draft agenda of full board. We will go through this very quickly. We will have a public hearing on the Carmen Villegas Senior Housing Project that we heard about in land use for the last 6 months of our lives. I think it's only 3 months. And then we'll move into our business. Anything you want to say, Jason, about the public session? Public hearing?
The meeting minutes are live and you can see the video.
Great, thank you. With the business session, we will have Second Avenue Subway Task Force first, which has no action items, but I guess a point of clarification, Angel, am I expected to run that since Xavier's not gonna be there?
wait, what are we doing?
The first one is, it's right here at the bottom. I almost missed it. Yeah, so I will carry us through the Second Avenue Task Force meeting. Housing, Adam? Any notes?
Nope, nothing.
All right, you have one motion, one item for voting, which was the approval resolution calling for state legislation to expand property and tax relief programs for senior people with disabilities. And that should pass, hopefully without any issue. Licenses and permits, I suppose. We'll go through. It's not as many as normal, so that's nice. And one approved administratively. Environmental and Citizen Parks.
You're looking for. Are you looking at?
Rosa.
Is this?
I have this. Oh,
That's what we reviewed here.
Thank you, guys.
I know it's hard to get your own time, but it's, you just have to, to be set apart.
Okay.
Yes, any action items or, things to note for full board?
No action items, only, we discussed the date and time of the, Earth Day Conference, April 22nd at El Museo del Barrio.
That's spring break.
No, not spring break, I'm sorry. What am I?
I thought it was typically on
It's,
420.
It's April 22nd, just because the kids are off the week before, and then it's Easter, and then the April 22nd is the first day that the kids are coming back in full force, so they can, do their projects. And present them to us, tailoring opportunities for anyone, please reach out. Yeah.
Human Services,
What, Michelle?
no action items,
No,
like, but
we,
anything.
no,
for-
we chilling, we good, we just trying to work through our yearly goals and what we're gonna be, the different. So we're looking at actually, number of different areas, we're trying to be a little bit more responsive as a committee.
Yeah.
And, be present, for what's going on, so. Yeah, we're just like trying to figure out our strategies for when we have people come in versus when we're communicating with people to get things done. So we're just trying to be a little bit more proactive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Youth and education?
All right, youth and education, there was a lot, I'm gonna try to condense it. Before I get to the motion, I know I had a few people ask me about Nightingale and the whole, them building the sports facility on 108 Street. I have been in contact with them, they did pull out of presenting at the meeting last minute. So we're trying to see, and the committee expressed wanting to maybe take a position on it because they are applying for public funding and we're trying to see how we would go about that. Because there's no, because they are using public funding to make a private facility, whether, I'm just saying what was expressed, so yeah. So that's, I will be working on that, the motion. Was basically, we received a resolution from the Manhattan High School's President's Council. With Dr. Caleres, Salas Ramirez came and presented. It is a resolution about ICE in the schools because that has been a major concern. And it's basically, we tried to vote on different, we tried to vote in support of different resolutions that the school agencies present to us. And this one basically says that we call for schools not to let ICE enter schools until a judicial warrant, which is different from there's different types of warrants. A judicial warrant has to be signed by a judge, but they will not be able to enter the school right away. It would be with any type of thing, whether the cops come for a child, ACS is called, any ACS approaches a building, just so you know, for those of you who are not in schools, no one can enter a school, even if a warrant is signed, because DOE legal has to vet it first. No one, we never let any child be taken from a school, since it's just reaffirming the whole, like reminding DOE, hey, we ain't letting anyone into the schools. And just for them to, they haven't really said much publicly, they have said much publicly, but it's also like on DOE to like outline, because I will say as someone who works in the school, the day after the inauguration for that whole week, we had half of the school absent. So there was kids disappearing and it is a thing, so,
Can
yeah,
I ask an ignorant question?
yeah.
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a recorded case of ICE going into a school and taking a kid out? Recorded, not.
No, there isn't,
Okay,
however, it's more because of all the noise right now, you want to be prepared for. It's prevention, because, and it's also, there needs to be more training in schools, because right now, the only two people in schools trained is the school security guard, which anyone knows who works in the school, changes every other day, and the principals. But more is a discussion that came up is what happens during dismissal, where the teachers are outside with the kids, what counts as school property and stuff like that. So that's, yeah.
And to and from the bus also, because some of the children are
Yeah.
getting in and out of the bus, and what
School bus.
happens, between the time that they leave the bus and going into and out of school.
It's a lot of hypotheticals, however,
Right, yeah.
however,
Oh, yeah.
when you're working with children,
Yeah.
you need to have stuff, even adults, you have to have stuff very. Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you. All right, land use?
I'm sorry, I thought you called on me already, Chair.
Oh, that was just at the beginning about.
Yeah, about Carmen
We're
Villegas, yes, we're good.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Public safety?
I just want to go back to, you didn't go over your motion.
you want me to go over?
I
that?
thought that was part of it.
Oh, motion, I was talking about the motion. Motion by Isaac Scott to adopt the Manhattan High School President's Council resolution imploring New York State Public Schools to maintain the safety, privacy, and integrity of students, seconded by Malik McCullough and passed unanimously. It's just because the title of it didn't actually really say what it
Oh,
is.
okay,
So, yeah,
I understand now. Thank you
Yeah,
for
no worries. That's fine.
that description.
it's all right.
I apologize for getting here late.
No worries.
I was actually kind of traumatized with seeing accident after more accidents along the way
Okay.
coming here. It was an interesting meeting that we had. And what was more interesting that someone started talking during the meeting that I couldn't see who was talking. Yes, they were out of order, but it was to the point where I'm like, can someone just say who it is that's talking? Which it turned out to be the Legal Aid Society individuals, where we were about to, when we were in discussion, or more so just, let's just vote on this. And a lot of information was just spurted out where everybody in the committee was just going, what's going on? What's going on? And
After you write.
after, yes. And so it was just to the point where everyone's like, we don't want to even vote on this now. We can't, we don't want to deal with this now because it's too much information. And I said, okay. Going with the committee, and what I'm specifically talking about is what we've been going on with the Legal Aid Society and the District Attorney's Office and the voting on the reformation, the recommendations that the District Attorney had provided, the information that the Legal Aid Society provided, as well as a resolution that could just be easily, with a yes or no, changed. Simply. So that non-vote happened. The motion that is on the floor was a motion that was made by Christina Johnson to write a letter of support requesting that the MTA relocate the M103 bus stop from 3rd Avenue, 120th to 120th and 121st to its previous location because it is right by a place where a lot of seniors get out, and the reason why it was moved, we don't even remember that history, but why not have it moved back to where it was? And the
Yeah.
vote was,
Just stop in front of time, you know.
yes,
building.
and you know,
Outside
and
in front of the
believe it.
Supermarket.
And so we thought it was a very simple change. And we had discussed it earlier and in full board. And so when the new head of the BREIKEN came, for some reason it's not flowing out of my mouth.
No.
He presented, but because we'd heard all this information before, I felt it was okay just to vote on that.
Okay, great,
Motion happened and accepted.
perfect.
I'm sorry, Chair, I had a question. That was MTA, this Farican person? MTA presented this?
No,
request?
not the MTA. The new head of BORI.
Nobody can help send.
Yes. It's not flowing off my tongue, so
No,
much.
it's okay. So a local CBO made this request to the Public Safety Transportation Committee.
Further made it. The first time it was made by Carlos Diaz, who is a member of our Public Safety and Transportation, as well as there were letters from the community asking for this change to be made. So it was all around, yeah?
No, I also think that with the current, I'm sorry.
No, please.
I also think that with the current bus stop there's also staff with it. And so the people who are waiting, they're actually waiting on the staff, there's none in front of time, what it used to be.
And I also went personally to check out the situation to see what was happening in the area, and it is a dangerous situation.
What was, I'm sorry, what was MTA's response?
The MTA was not there. Raphael was there,
Okay.
but he has nothing to do with moving a bus stop. Raphael is with the Department of Transportation.
Was this letter of support, so this will be
To
sent
the
to the
MTA.
MTA.
Sorry, to advocate.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because especially the buses be skipping when the staff will be stuck, because they can't see.
Because they can't see the people. And walking 2 blocks for a person who's older that is not as able to walk quickly, and it's just not necessary.
Any other questions on this?
Yeah, I can do, are you guys ready as to public safety?
Oh,
It's about the
The DA.
Yeah,
DA Legal Aid
yeah.
Society
So
recommendation.
are you going to continue to entertain it, or are you guys gonna just, is there like, do you have a sense of what you, like, what do you wanna do as a chair? I guess that's what I'm kind of wondering. Cause it feels to me like, I'll speak transparent, it feels like something that was kind of placed on you all's lap. And it wasn't really something that the committee as a body of people were committed to working on, so it's kind of like a weird thing to have.
It feels very much in limbo. But we've learned a lot.
Mhm.
And I think that the learning process has united us more. And because we had so many people come in and talk about it, I think it's only been beneficial for us.
We got, Nelson and Jason.
So to follow up on Isaac's great question. Is there a world where the committee could take position where they support, let's say, dialogue in trying to, work through this without, and whatever dialogue would mean, by not only talking and meeting and community engagement and stuff like that, and taking a position where the committee would consider a position on that kind of support, as opposed to saying, yes, we agree with this, or no, we disagree with this. Because it's been a couple of months, and I know it's hard to like corral kind of stuff when there's so many emotional and logical and so many different things that can impact. So it's just a comment, just throwing out there in case that might be, an avenue where you're supporting the dialogue and the importance of dialogue and what could come out of it. Might be something to consider.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
yeah.
before I go to Jason, I think that's something I was mentioning to Xavier, like the idea of those two groups coming together in the first place is probably the first time they ever had like a conversation together. And that was I feel like that should have been televised. I feel like that should have been like a huge thing for the community board to bring voices like that together. So I think that's a great way of looking at it. But Jason, what do you think?
You stole my shine. Larry, that's exactly what I was gonna say, right? I could do that with every committee. Last year was Human Services, with having to deal with, that issue with for formerly homeless individuals. This year, it's public safety with dealing with, with the justice system, right? Which is, with all due respect, some of my intention was for that interest, was not just one side of the fence. We want to hear from, but not that it should be any fences. It's just like with your conception earlier about what we're doing with SDN is like, we're building partnerships, right? We need, to some sense of diplomacy, let alone democracy, we need each other, right? So I think it's extremely healthy that, with all due respect, I don't remember the last time I heard public safety having such a challenging situation that really allows you to rise to the cause of service, right? Because just hearing from pastor's perspective of what the DA was coming from, with as much as from hearing from the DA where he was coming from, or from Legal Aid Society, it just gives a more sound sense of reason. And I think that, and if I may, Chair, I do think it's always healthy that when there's a social emotional, like this is a policy issue, it shouldn't just fall on a technical committee. There should be that social emotional element that I always look for human services towards, because it helps in those arguments to separate, right? Yes, there's legitimate social dynamics that argue that the system is against anybody and everybody, but there's also the reality that there's criminals out there and they need to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I have no sympathy for that, right? If a person violates the law and breaks it, they should be held accountable through that process, right? That's my opinion. So I think allowing the committee to do that work, and I think that was why I was asking even in the previous terms, like, is there a timeline? Because I think sometimes we create this false sense of reality. This is why in land use, anything comes to my table that's mandated, it's already been told that it's gonna take, before my chairmanship, it's gonna take 2 months for us to just look on this. And then we're gonna sit there and take a position. But, in this situation, I don't know exactly how it came into fruition, but I do think it's a conversation to be had, just like some of these other issues that we're talking about that are creating gaslit scenarios that particularly minorities are worried about, but the reality is we do have rights and privilege as well. And we don't need to keep acting like we don't. And I think that there is strength in trying to, I kind of went off on a tangent, but my point is, there is strength in having those difficult conversations. That was one of the biggest reasons I love the SDN committee, was because I was able to hear from, even with chairs, right? Land use didn't care about housing, and housing didn't care about human service. I'm just being hypothetical, but the reality is they all affect each other when it came to us doing that SDN and driving that policy. That's why I had no issue stepping back to housing to narrate the draft, because I know the need of the district is apartments, not as much as concerning about the technical preference of how to deal with land. So I love what you're doing, and I think that you continue the good fight. And if there's any support that you can have from land use or me as a member, you have it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think Michelle, everyone in the executive committee would be willing to support whatever, next steps for that item. As, I think it's a great conversation that we've had here that hopefully maybe you can just take to your committee, and if there's any assistance we can do with the resolution or a letter.
Like, I know there's some people that just wanted to get rid of it. Like, oh, we've been doing, oh, we have to go this again on this
That's
way.
always an option too, so.
But my thing is like, you know what? This is helping us, it is helping us to grow. And if we have to go on the different websites and look what bills are on the floor and to understand what's going up and go through the background, why not?
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah,
go ahead.
one quick one. I understand that sometimes some of our members just wanna like get away from something and, they figure we discussed it, but that does a disservice to the community. We have to have the hard conversations, and if we can't come to a position, then we should document that we can't come to a position and all the reasons why, because this community should always have a position on everything it's asked for. Because there will come a time that other people will not ask the community board for their position. And that is a real danger to our people. So, I applaud you and everyone who continues to try to bring up the matter in a different way in the committee so that they can see how important it is. Because I think sometimes people join the community board thinking that it's something different, but you actually can affect policy. And as long as I've been here, we've always had something that we've affected. And so that's, always a good thing for our people.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, economic development and culture, I believe, did not have quorum last night, is that right? Or the night before last? Okay. District needs and budget also almost did not have quorum, and that would have been a disaster for you guys, so you're welcome for saving the day. Just kidding. No, we made it work, so.
Yeah.
I know, it was
I
very,
was watching, I was like,
very dangerous, so, but we obviously went through the preliminary, statement of the budget, statement of the preliminary budget, and we talked about the narrative, we know we have work to do. There's, a new work plan that, we've worked through that, we can share with you all as well, for that meeting. And executive, here we are, we ratified the statement, and now we're talking about some other things. Is there anything else for a full board, Angela, or otherwise? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is due process hearing for removal of board membership. You have on your docket here a summary of Justina Williams, appointed to CB11. I think we invited her to this meeting, right, Angel? So and the ability to attend in person or online. I do not see them here. Hold on, go ahead.
She was given the opportunity to be online as well.
As I understand.
yeah. That wasn't,
Not my decision.
that was anyone's sitting here's decision.
Motion to remove this person?
Well, we
Is that what-
have to go into.
I mean, 'cause I'm just saying, I feel like that's where we're going with this
Yeah.
conversation.
Do
So
we
we
need
don't
to
have
go into executive session?
It depends on the sensitivity of the discussion. If you're just gonna do a vote, that should be on the record, that has to be on the record. If you wanna go into discussion and touch on anything sensitive, then you should go into executive session.
Okay, well, just to give some context, as I understand,
Well, if we're gonna.
If we're gonna agree
what's
that-
out loud
Then
here.
we have to go into executive.
Yeah, let's.
Motion to go in executive session.
okay,
be
second.
on the safe
Second.
side. Keep it safe.
Aye.
Nelson.
I was the second, so.
And honestly, for process with removals, it's because they,
Wait, we're not off
it's
yet.
okay. It's a machine,
See you later, Adam.
tap off.
Hang up on you.
I'm tired of this.
All right,
Would
I
you
will
like to make
entertain a
the motion?
motion.
Yes.
Oh, go for it, Dash.
Motion to remove Justina Williams from Community Board 11 due to her inability to attend meetings.
Do I hear a second? Second by Isaac. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. And thank you, to Justina for providing testimony, and for, your service on the board.
Yeah, and we should also just, could I also, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also state for the record, if there's anything that any of the community board members can do to support her transition to another community board or.
I will say when
We
Nick
can-
Baker first told me about her situation, I did send resources to him to send her.
Yeah.
And it also involved other like community board stuff, so I just, she has resources.
Chair, motion to move on, we already
Motion to
moved.
move on, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Well, any old
It's like a
business?
motion.
Our-
We're gonna have to go back into executives. You're right,
Is
you're right.
Is the discussion, because this is already part of,
This discussion is over. obviously.
no, I'm saying, but is this the discussion, is that the end for the attendance?
No, no.
No,
Okay.
we're having like actual.
Okay,
Yeah, so our first item of old business is attendance.
okay.
Please,
All right, Rose, I don't wanna put
that
you
was
on
a
the
text
spot.
message, that's not a testimony.
I'm happy.
Yeah, come on, man, I know we heard, but
No,
bro,
but we've done it.
and I know you hear me, it's okay.
Give me 2 minutes just to, I'm gonna pull up the spreadsheet so that we can pull it up on the screen.
What's this, so
Oh, we about to start looking at all our fours and threes.
That we are indeed.
I'm glad I'm not on that of this year.
Always on that.
It may be faster, Angel. if
Can I
you
make a
would.
motion to not have as many executive committee meetings?
We already did that and lost.
Oh, we did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we wanted it once a quarter, like every other board.
Well, I'm happy to like
It's a thing,
entertain
what?
that.
Cause they can make the vote and win it.
You, I guess it.
No, I was, because,
That's okay, I was just playing. no.
because of these conversations about attendance as a primary.
Yeah. Now, we got a system now, the secretary is, so just follow that process and we good. The problem is in the past, to be honest, I'm sorry,
Presenting or?
we,
Oh, yeah, I just joined the meeting, if you could. help me.
we never had that. Ever. We just never had that.
Someone actually called me because they heard me calling out the attendance.
Never, they've never, So it was a culture shock for me.
All right,
Who's the one and the other?
I gotta start charging CB11.
Right, if the
Oh,
attendance is
again.
not-
So for full board, the 2 people that were on 5 are already gone. Okay, we just removed another, we literally just removed the first one. Was the second one,
Can't see any.
no, the first one of this year, not the.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so.
I'm just trying this.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we'll go through it. So currently, for those who have missed 4 or more full boards, sorry, I can't do this like that.
Oh.
Was good.
Yeah, we just have Stanley Johnson, right?
He resigned.
So, yeah, which she resigned and Johnson. District needs, no one has hit the 4. Yeah,
Cancer.
due to our canceled meeting. Echo Dev, we have Jenny Tromsky, who is a public member who has since been removed, is that correct?
Or she resigned.
She resigned, all right.
She resigned.
I just had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said the economic, development didn't have one,
This, yeah, 2 days ago was supposed to be Eco Dev and they did not have quorum.
right, so is it that you keep track of who would have been?
Yeah, if you look at the
And then-
screen,
Yeah, just because I can't
for
see it.
February, they kept track of who was there and who
Okay.
was not there.
All right,
Um,
thanks.
yeah, no, great question.
Yeah, even if the meeting has no quorum, that's still.
Pushing.
Yeah,
It's just I can't see, that's why. Thanks.
no,
Jocelyn Cruz is the only one on environment and they're no longer on the
no,
board.
they're no longer,
Okay,
she resigned.
for executive, we're all good here. Thank you guys.
Well, for executive, I don't see January's attendance on there.
What are the other ones? I don't have it.
Okay,
Sorry.
No, you have to be sorry. I have to do my job.
we don't get to be held to the law.
Cause I think cause including today, definitely there's people for executive who have hit the threshold. Sorry.
All right, well, while we're waiting for that, on the housing side, it looks like, we're not hitting any fours here. On the human services side, also not hitting any fours.
They, we have a couple of trees.
Yeah, I think there's some threes on housing. There's some threes.
There are community board 11 members and one is a public member.
Chair, anybody relevant to land use, if the secretary doesn't mind, could she notify me, so that way I could reach out to them?
There are
For both,
threes.
or even two, for
Okay,
both committee and land, use, if you don't mind, I'll look at it
Yeah.
myself, but since the work is being administrated, if that could just, boom, hey, these 2, 3 people, I have some conversations with.
okay, great.
I
So
think it
yes,
helps.
can I comment on that?
Please.
So last executive board meeting, we decided that when it will be the responsibility of the chair to see that it's on 2, right? You have, no, on 3, right? And then it will be the responsibility of the secretary to hit up the chair, say, hey, you have this member or that member hitting 4. And then I will email them directly.
So basically, I won't get another question. Not a problem, I got it.
No, but
We'll move on. It's all right, it's not a big deal.
But I can.
As
I
it
make
has
this
been-
personal.
Okay, yep, sorry.
Let's keep it moving,
Yeah.
please.
I'm gonna keep it moving, but in order to convey, as it has been passed on from on high, the direction has been that the chair, and I've spoken against this for all clarity, I said, don't put any more work on the chairs, because we are the ones doing the most work in the entire community board. That as from upstairs on the chair, we have been just told that we, at 2 meetings, we have to reach out, at 3 meetings, Rosa will reach out, and at 4 meetings, we discuss the process.
So do process, yeah.
I'll take care of it. Thank you, Chair.
Licenses, we have, not Jensina Williams, all right. Oversight is not met. Public safety,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, public safety, can you?
Ooh,
Yeah, let me know.
same.
Who's that on file with?
Claudia Perez, and, Jose Altamirano, met the threshold.
Audio.
On youth and education, we have, Jensina who got removed, and Alita who was removed from the committee, right?
What committee is she on now?
With that.
She was-
Parks,
Was she?
I think, right?
Yeah,
No,
she
she
got moved to parks.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Have you seen?
my,
It must have.
Hold on,
been
one at a time. I'm gonna let this conversation finish. Have you seen just, Alita at the Environmental Space Parks meetings?
I was not advised that, she was,
she's not even on the list.
no, she's not, it was.
Okay, well, we should talk to Xavier because she is required to be on 2 committees and chose Parks as her second committee. Asher?
I just wanna make a comment, just because we're gonna keep saying this, I think the whole idea of removing people from a committee just because they can't make the committee originally, but. I think, I just wanna say, is there any way we don't remove people from committees unless they request it because they're having a time conflict? It shouldn't be that we have to go to them and be like, hey. you need to, you've reached a threshold for this committee, can you move? I don't think that's, cause that's gonna be a loophole that people are gonna use to get away with not showing up to meetings.
Absolutely, it comes down to, again, being responsible as a human adult, so,
I'm just saying when we full board, when we're having the attendance spiel.
agreed,
Can I add something?
absolutely.
Well said.
All right, great. All right, we can come back to executive.
Well, what about human services? Do I-
Oh, human
Sorry.
services is,
You had like a three. couple-
yeah,
No threes?
no, great.
Oh, it was housing, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Beaches.
All right, so with the updated attendance, we have 1-3, from, Jason and, Claudia Perez, who is now hitting 4.
Cool.
No, public safety.
Jose, you mean?
No,
You said Jason?
Oh,
public
I said Jose.
No, you said.
You
okay,
said-
wait. If we look at the screen, sorry, I know it's small. Jason Villanueva is highlighted at 3 absences, and he is present here today. Therefore, he does not meet the 4 minimum. Jose has 1 missed meeting. I'm on executive.
Oh, exactly.
I'm on the executive committee, which was the last one we had to go to. The last person who has met the 3 threshold is Claudia Perez, who by not showing up today has now hit 4 meetings missed. Okay,
And it's 4 on the public safety.
okay, oh, interesting.
So that's the 2 committees.
So does those disability forms, they don't count?
If someone has filled out a disability form and attends virtually, they count as present. But if they submit the form and they don't show up to the meeting virtually, then they're still an absent.
Got it.
Alright, so,
So there's another loophole.
so so just to clarify, because this is something we spoke about, if it's 2 committees, they have reached the threshold for. 2 committees, they've reached 4 each, then we could call them in, right?
Due process, yeah.
Yeah, the due process starts, right? Because Claudia on executive and on public safety she's 5 on public safety and 4 on executive.
Yeah.
So we can make a motion to start the due process for her, because we're talking about being strict.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
At this point,
So currently Claudia Perez is the only person who has met the criteria for the due process.
alright, and it'll be due process for removal, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Asher?
alright, motion to start the due process of removal for Claudia Perez due to missing 4 executive meetings and 5 public safety and transportation meetings.
Do I have a second?
What happened? So let's be strict.
And,
Can I
I'm
second?
sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I mean, it's up to you.
No, please ask your question.
Yeah, secretary, I'm sorry, chair to the secretary. And all of those were, even with this is why I don't like this disability process. So even with the disability, she did not fill out no disability and she was absent. Those were not excused absences.
So if you look at the screen, for example, with this executive committee,
I'm sorry, with all due respect, I can't.
I know,
I know.
she did have a qualifying disability form in September,
Uh-huh,
and then it appears has not used the disability form since, at least for executive.
okay.
If we go to public safety, it looks like it doesn't appear that any of the qualifying disability forms were used at any meetings.
Okay.
Michelle?
She did have a problem filling out the form and the whole thing and I sent it to her.
Yeah.
And in one of them, she was able to complete the form. I don't remember which month it was. And she did
Even if she filled out the form,
and came.
and so did she come to meetings and then was marked absent because she was?
She came to the meeting on,
We will have to review the minutes and.
when we did not have a quorum.
That was January 16th, she was late and left her. It's noted on there.
Hold on, I'm gonna go to Nilsa. Did you have another question?
No, I just wanna emphasize that the form is online now.
Yeah.
And it's very simple to fill fill out, so I don't know the criteria, because as far as I know, paper ones are not being done, so this must be before the online that you mentioned, filling out the form.
It was the online that she had filled out a paper one previously, but it was the online one, and it was the whole thing with Google, and she was having a hard time figuring out, so I just had to keep
Okay.
sending it to her. And that's why she was late that particular time.
Well, late doesn't unfortunately, matter in this conversation.
I'm just giving the
Yeah, I understand.
background of that.
It's simply absences, and I think, in order to be a board member, you have to do certain things. One of them is being responsive. The second is showing up. The third is being able to do simple things, like filling out a form. For example, what committee do you want to be on? That's a form that we use to figure out who everyone is, which committee they're on. Similarly, if you have to be able to fill out a form for a qualifying disability.
And with all due respect, her profession is an administrator. I do think we have like a lot of questions, because I do have more, but it's probably more to public safety than anything.
I'll go to Asher and then Angel.
I'm looking up patterns because I'm looking at every committee she's on. She's on housing, she's on executive and on public safety and transportation, and then I looked at full. As of January, she used the qualifying disability form for housing. So that means she does have a form.
Oh, no, she has
So
it
it's
now.
just
yeah.
her but also even before that, it's just her choosing not to show up. I think the conversation we're having now, we should have when we call her in.
Yeah.
Calling her in for removal doesn't mean we're necessarily gonna remove her. It's the process.
So the step of, I'm sorry, Chair, because I like this this logic with process. So did you call her?
That's why, that was the motion I made.
No, that's the due process for removal. Once we go there, we can remove her.
So
We said that we were gonna call before the removal, so one committee was public safety, which I'm confused with.
Yeah.
You're sound with what you hear from public safety, because I'm not sound with what I'm hearing from public safety.
I
So
just
then
sound
I'm gonna go to
public safety.
executive, I get the paper part. The executive, right? So now I ask executive, was you reached out to her?
When I mean we, is like Xavier. Myself, we said, in the executive, we said that we were gonna call a couple of people and, you were asking on that day, but last time. We said that we're gonna call like 3 people and one of them resigned, we just removed one and she was the other one that had to come in person. To like tell us why she should stay in the community board 11. So I don't know
Got it.
if that person was notified
Angel?
by the chair.
I made a point about this member months ago, and I was not listened to, and the attendance has continued to be. Not poor, just evident,
Yeah.
there is no attendance.
Yeah.
Michelle's meeting in January lost quorum. And action items could not be taken, and minutes could not be taken because this member and another member left. Before the meeting was over, after having arrived late to the meeting. So Michelle explained what could have caused this person to be late. Okay,
But not what they.
what explains that person leaving early? Right, quorum was lost and the meeting could not happen, and then an additional meeting had to be scheduled. This is all because of this one member. I'll add, this is why I disagree with this idea of the three thing. Because you just follow people all over the place and there's excuse after excuse and explanation after explanation. This is member, as like with other members, that never communicates. They communicate when they choose to. They don't show up. The attendance is consistently poor this session, was consistently poor last session. At what point does that count for anything, is my argument, time and again, because the consequence is no quorum. The consequence is a major project was presented to the Public Safety Committee in January, right, the Third Avenue thing, it's gonna have a lot of impact, no minutes. Right, because there's no quorum. So then when the community comes and asks you all, hey, why are they changing the entirety of Third Avenue? Well, we talked about it, but we didn't officially have a meeting, we couldn't take any action, whatever the impact was. It's because of that. But time and again, it's, well, let's figure out. If you're not here, back to my point with the other member, if you're not here, you're not here. It's your responsibility. I was told when I was hired, my schedule was Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That's it, I don't have to be repeated, I don't have to be reminded, hey, look, you're late. No, you're either here, or you're not here.
Yep.
And I think that we go over and above talking about this stuff, and it's been 15 years of talking about attendance.
I'll go to Jason and then I'll summarize, so we'll go back to our motion.
I'm with the motion.
Okay, so I think the metrics
The
are clear.
clarity was what was
Yeah,
needed.
great, all right. The motion was made to begin the process, the due process for Claudia Perez by Asher. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jason. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Or any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously.
Since she is assistant secretary.
Chair, I would love to see that passion from our members
Yeah.
of what we saw from the staff, especially executive leadership, when we're talking about removing members.
Yeah.
Cause that right there was sound.
Absolutely.
And some of this other stuff was on sound, but that was extremely sound.
Yeah. It's all about the numbers, and then when they get called in for the due process, then we can have the conversation with them about why it is that they miss the meetings, and we can decide for ourselves if that's something we want to prevent removal or if we want to proceed with removal. Go ahead.
Can, I just wanna be clear.
Yeah.
Right, when we do this due process, right, which is gonna come from me, are we asking this member to come in person, or are we giving the option of coming on Zoom?
They're offered whichever way is more convenient to them, as the letter says, they can come either way.
Asher?
Is there any way that we could change it that they have to come in person? Because we've had this conversation multiple times. I think it's rude that we're calling them in for attendance and then they're on Zoom and we're just talking.
I think we just take it into consideration. If they show up by Zoom, it's a different experience than if they show up in
I
person.
am so, I'm so against the whole internet thing to begin with, but
What's
you
the-
can't have that members could be home. I'm with you. I'm just saying, we're already messed up with this internet crap, excuse my language, like. The other boards don't have it at all. 3 years ago, they still don't have it. This board, I'm disabled because I caught a cough yesterday. I mean, there are legitimate issues, but to the point of the conversation we're having as adults, mature adults with attendance, we're being hustled.
Yeah.
And with all due respect, there's a lot of hungry young brothers and sisters out there that could get on this board and serve. There's 5 or 10 of us working out of 50.
Yep, absolutely.
Wait,
That's why
wait.
we're still talking about this, and I hope that we continue to talk about it through the rest of this cycle. All right, and now we're gonna move on to our second item, our first item of new business, which is support for staff. I just wanted to bring up to you all, I feel like I don't wanna put any more pressure on the executive committee, as I already stated. I want to discuss with you all here and hopefully, give a little bit of floor to Angel to just discuss what the experience of the staff members working for the community board is currently and how we make it better and worse in cases and how we can move forward to make working at the community board something that people want to do and feel supported in doing. I think as we can see, the attendance issues, it's a real problem when, any member of the staff stays late for our meetings, and it's just the same as us coming into the meetings from our own personal lives. To have to sit here, wait for people, to not have enough people, to have to apologize to presenters that are coming in and make all these concessions. So, and I think, knowing Angel and the staff, they want to come in, do their job, do a good job and do work for the community. And right now, I don't feel like there's a true ability to do that. So I think there's work that we need to do as executive members, and then we can talk about how we translate that to the rest of the board. I don't know, Angel, if you want to say anything before I go to people. Okay, Asher.
Okay, I just wanna bring up, because this does relate back to supporting the staff. Cause the staff need the minutes from us and stuff like that, but also as chairs, we have so much stuff to do already on top of that. I remember at one point someone mentioning the suggestion of vice chairs doing minutes. Is that something we could require? No, you know what I mean? Cause I don't think a vice chair is a title where you sit there and you don't do anything. I'm lucky that my vice chair is awesome. However, which is crazy, never tell him I said that. He's very good at being the vice chair.
you say that. That's
He's very
important.
No, I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. David used to say you were great all the time too. Yeah, okay, let's keep it going.
I just think we need to put a little bit more responsibility on the vice chairs for certain things. And some of us have really good vice chairs, others don't. And I don't think it's fair I don't think it's fair that, because then the staff are gonna have to talk to, the staff needs stuff from us. However, we're all one person and it all relates back to someone gotta do it. And it shouldn't be staff's responsibility. It's not the staff's responsibility. It's just some way to divide up the load so that way more stuff gets done. And it in turn makes the staff happy. Yeah.
Nilsa, and then I saw a Dem, and then I'll go to Michelle and Isaac.
Well, when I came in today, one of the things I mentioned was that office oversight is gonna meet. This has been an ongoing discussion, and you can tell us, that I've had with staff. Minutes have always been an issue. We've talked about the vice chairs doing the minutes. We've talked about, appointing people to do the minutes. I think that when we talk about the bylaws committee, I think just like anything, when you have almost like a job description that you can put that they should be serving on district needs, that they should be in tandem with the chair or any appointee to do the minutes. A lot of times, we don't recognize that we are very fortunate in this community board because we actually have liaisons who help the committee. Other community boards do not have liaisons, and they actually do the work that is expecting. Putting the pressure of not working with your vice chair and getting agendas done, not anticipating. One of the things that I would recommend is that, just like statement of district needs you're working on, that we all like fill in almost like a timeline, like things that we'd like to do during the year, and we anticipate speakers so that they can be populated, and then it's just a matter of saying, well, we have this gap here, we have this gap here, or we have presentations here. Because when we give the minutes to say, when the staff is scrambling for agendas, when we don't recognize that we have a responsibility with staff, which I don't always agree with in terms of volunteers, having oversight in some cases with the staff, when the staff is who's paid and has a vested interest where we come and go. I think that that's something that we've discussed, that office oversight wants to change their role a little bit, almost to be like an HR kind of figuring out issue, so that we can help the chairs work best with the staff, but also that the staff feels that they have someone to come to other than just the chair and the vice chair. So I think this is an important discussion, and it's way due. And like I said, we've had conflict scheduling because on my day, other committees are meeting, but we are definitely meeting in March.
The amount of power that the chair could have over the staff is alarming to me.
Absolutely.
A Dem, and then Michelle, and then Isaac and Jason.
Thank you. I think first I just want to say, I think the best way for us to help the staff is to hear how the staff thinks we can help them. But just from my own observations, and I mean, it's pretty obvious, we sat here for a while and just talked about getting people to show up. The problem is, and I think Jason said this and I'll agree with him, and Jason, if you didn't say it, then I stand corrected. There's like 5 or 10 of us that are doing all the work for this board. And most of us are in that room, or me too. I'll give myself credit for that. But I'll speak from my experiences, the chair of licenses and permits, and I'll piggyback on what Nilsa said about liaisons. I mean, if I didn't have Marlene in those meetings with me, and Judith, the rest of my committee, they had no materials in front of them. We'd have multiple applications. I know that they didn't review them. They had nothing in front of them. They didn't know the hours. They didn't know anything. And here they were sitting there voting on people's applications when they had absolutely no knowledge of those applications. And they'd consistently lean on Marlene. And I'd have no choice but to lean on her as well, because I think Asher's hitting the point too of, vice chairs who don't really do anything. It's hard to run a meeting and then take the minutes for that meeting. So it's about doing the work, and I don't know how we solve that. But that's the biggest problem. We're not doing the work, and then the staff's having to do it for us. I mean, I don't really think it's more complicated than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Michelle,
Oh, that was all.
Michelle, and then Isaac.
Oh, okay. I think yes, we do a lot. And my thing has been, because I know that it's just too much to reach out and ask for my committee members for help. Who wants to do the minutes at which point? But I feel that it is my responsibility to go back through the minutes that have been written because they're not used to it. And then going through, it's like, oh, I'm gonna be changing it. And take those hours that it needs to go through to change it. So that it actually reflects, and then that way they learn, and it's sort of like fostering another person that could be a leader in your group. There's some people that don't want to, they just want to shy back. That's understandable as well. But to find out where people's strengths are in your committee, I think that really helps to build that community.
Isaac?
I was just thinking that, if we are going to, if we want to start thinking about, the vice chairs doing more, I think then we should figure out ways in which there could be more training and support given to them. I feel like, I don't know, for me as the chair, I kind of learn by fire. So I try to be, just try to be supportive in that learning curve. So maybe, I think maybe the conversation should be more around chair and vice chair rather than just chair all the time, and perhaps vice chair should be invited to these meetings as well, if they're gonna happen anyway. The reason I'm saying that is because they can then understand, because I'm thinking about like, so for March, I probably won't be able to be here, and my vice chair is gonna chair the meeting, but I feel like, I wish they felt more confident in that role, is what I'm saying. And I think that comes with time and sort of giving them that opportunity to lead and being at the table. So it's not like the information is being gate kept from executive committee, but then chair, then vice chair, it's like they have a seat at the table, they can understand. They can also lean in and help the chair in organizing the agendas as well. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't mean it as like an
No,
attack.
no, I was just thinking about, I wish that I could navigate a little bit more with my vice chair.
Yeah.
A little bit. And Jen is dope, so it's just like, I felt like if she just had a little bit more training in some areas and she wasn't so disconnected, especially from making the agenda process as
Yeah.
well, understanding what goes in the agenda, who decides that, why it's decided, things like that,
Mm.
And that also could just be a reflection of me not always communicating that directly, but I don't know.
I do, just a point that, when I was chair of Environmental and Six Parks, Malik, my vice chair, was invited to every meeting where we met with Khalid and we discussed the agenda together. I think that's one way of doing it.
I started that.
But Nelsa?
Yeah, I was gonna say that every vice chair can attend this meeting. This is not a closed meeting. This is for the executive, the people who were elected, plus the chairs. But this is an open meeting, so the vice chairs can come at any time. Now, Andrew can correct me if there's something to vote on. If the vice chair is here in your stead, I don't believe they can vote on behalf of the committee. They can voice an opinion as someone who's attended here, but they can still be first. Now, I will tell you, one of the things that we had talked about before and we had done, and we've done it ad nauseam, was coming up with a template for minutes.
Yeah.
Best practices. We've had other groups that talk about, what is it, I can't think of the group right now. The parliamentarian group that does how to take minutes, how to do agendas and stuff. So we have those kind of trainings that we can sort of come up. But one of the things that I used to do when I was doing minutes and we fell behind was I would look at the transcript from the meeting. And I would hit transcript and I would just download the transcript, and at least as I'm filling in my notes, I can go back and see and then look at you know, I see the video and the recording, I'm gonna try to correlate, what was going on, I just think that, like we said before, I think that everyone here who's at the table is very thoughtful, and I think that, we know how to communicate, right? And so it's just a matter of maybe we've missed the boat in our expectations on how to explain how we would like to work better with our committees. Because maybe we were missing something, like Isaac said. So if we start thinking about where our gaps are and what we'd like to see, and whether once we go to the bylaws thing, if there are expectations that should be put there. And new processes that don't involve the staff doing them, but that will help us. I think that's something that we can always discuss.
Before I pass it to Angel, I just want to say thank you to everyone for your comments. I think it's probably for me less about the nuts and bolts of the deliverables of each chair, like we have the chair and vice chair responsibilities in that document we've talked about. So I think it's less for me in supporting the chair. Obviously, we agreed to do those things, we need to do those things. But for me, it's about what is the experience of being a staff member, especially, and how we conduct meetings as a community board. So, go ahead.
Do you have tangible examples? Cause I think that's why
Yeah.
we're reaching with what we know,
No, yes.
right? So if you have like, I don't know,
Yeah.
if not, and maybe the Angel could
Yeah.
provide it.
I think I would lean on Angel to provide, because I don't wanna speak from like private conversations that I've had with, either Polina.
Absolutely.
Angel, I don't know if you wanna. Okay, Michelle.
I wanted to say that, I felt like a real collaboration with. I'm, cause I'm really with Khalid more so, Angel, so. But I felt like a real collaboration with Khalid back and forth. And the support, and so that it really helps. And you could feel I could feel the change as I would rely on him, it's like, oh, wait. Is this part of the, is this person out, what's going on here? And I felt that that he really lifted up what could have gone into a horrible situation.
Yeah.
That I think is good, but also puts him in a very horrible situation. To have to be that in between of what's going on.
Yeah.
How can we support people in that situation when it is all too public coming in with their particular agenda?
I think that's probably the question, is how does the staff think that the community board could be better supporting the staff?
Thanks. That's so many things. But just like trying to start from a simple place. Since you're all chairs and speaking about it. It starts with the relationship, like, it was Nelson that referenced the staff liaison model that we use at CB11. And other boards that don't use that model, and everything's you guys, so. Staff, no agenda, no minutes, no attendance, no nothing. What was decided many years ago at CB11 was to have staff participate in the conversation with the idea that the staff would be a value add, right? Because you're all working all day, you're volunteers, you're not land use people, you're not, you may be, but often you're not. And the idea is like, we may have more experience where, we've studied it, we're in the middle of it, so bring the staff person into the room to be of assistance. The chair liaison relationship is the key part. And that depends on you. I, as the district manager, got you covered in terms of the staff. The staff will do their job. If they do not do their job, they will not be here. That they're here is because they're doing their job. They're ready to go. But they need your partnership. I need your partnership. I liaison for my committees too. If my chair is not being responsive, I am at a deficit, just like Marlene and Khalid are. If I'm there and we're talking all the time, or we're talking with, whatever time you can make available, or with some regularity, I'll use you as an example. Hey, Michelle, we got 3 requests for next month. I penciled them in. Do you have any ideas agenda wise? There's this other topic that I read about that might be interesting to you. Do you want to talk about that at the next meeting? And then you put your ideas on the table, and then the 2 of us work out. Okay, well, that's 6 things. We don't want to do 6 things in one meeting. Let's pick 3. And these are discussion topics that are not necessarily urgent. Let's push that to the next meeting, right? Or let's pull in Jessica with the budget committee on this other thing. Maybe we can talk about it there. Those conversations, that could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, it could be half an hour, are incredibly valuable. You leave that conversation. Now I know what I'm doing. Now you know that I'm doing it, right? And there's nothing to worry about because we've discussed it. When it's just, using me as an example, hey, Michelle, I have 1, 2, 3 idea. You never respond to the email. You never get on the call. We never have the conversation. I show up to the meeting, right, tonight, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna talk about these 3 things. You're not ready. So it's just dud and dud and dud. And I'm like, oh my God, right? That's not good. We want to do the other, the first model, right? That takes that back and forth. I send you the template. It is your full responsibility to do the minutes. It is not my responsibility. What we've done over time is meet you halfway. Here's the date, here's the attendance, here's the thing, here's a little summary. And you just fill in what you gotta fill in. That goes a long way. I cannot tell you how much frustration we feel as staff because we can't even do that. And doing just that is my day is a lot brighter when I'm able to do that. If I don't talk to my chair and I'm showing up to a meeting, like Nilsa and I used to work together when she was chair. Nilsa trusted me, in my opinion, too much. Angel, you got it. Angel, you got it. Angel, you got it. I'm like, I do got it, but I need you to know.
Exactly.
Because then when we show up and a bomb drops and you're not ready, then you're like, and Nilsa with a couple of minutes to prepare is a monster. Nilsa unprepared is unprepared, right? But if I was able to talk to Nilsa, this is what's coming. Nilsa's not a land use person. Give me 5 minutes. It's 100 apartments, it's this, it's that, who cares? I'm gonna suss it down. I'm gonna summarize all that nonsense. I'm gonna get down to the controversial part. This is the part you gotta worry about. And then I bring that up to Nilsa. Nilsa's like, wait a second, I'm born and raised. I know when that building was this, and then she's bringing her value added. That's where Khalid needs you, right? That's where I need Jason. That's where Jason needs me, and so forth, right? That goes a long way. We don't get that. So that is the frustration. That's why this conversation. It doesn't happen consistently. Now, these calls that I referenced started years ago when our former board chair, Matthew Washington, was here. Incredibly busy guy, right? He was very hands-on, but then his life just got in the way. He was too busy to be as accessible as we needed him to be to meet his high demand. So we're like, hold on a second. We need time, because you want 10 specific things. I need half an hour to talk to you so I can figure out these 10 things. So what we landed on was, he gave us, our former district manager, he gave us half an hour on Friday. And that half an hour, we came with the list, and we knocked it out. I'm like, you like this, you like this, you don't like that? And then we had something. I carried that over with each proceeding, each succeeding, whatever, chair. And then I modeled that for the committee chairs. That works. I've been here a long time. I've been doing this stuff a long time. When I don't have my calls with my chairs, it's like I just started.
Yeah.
I'm at 0, right? I can show up. I've studied all the materials on land use application, for example, right? Like everybody knows that's what I like. And I'll read it inside of, forwards and backwards, right? Backwards and forwards. And I'll show up. I know my committee didn't read it. I know as soon as we sit down from the questions, they're gonna read it. And we're at a disadvantage. We don't need you to be land use experts. That's what I'm here for. That's what George James is here for. We need your on the ground point of view. But it has to be an informed point of view. You just can't be like, out of nowhere. That kills all the prep work we did, you know? It really is, it's discouraging and it's counterproductive. And that makes it difficult for the staff. In terms of, you know, creating agendas, chasing shares down for agendas, it's a super drag. Chasing shares for minutes is a drag. No such heard me say this for what, a century. Minutes don't have to be that complicated. Think of it as you're reading another board's minutes. And you just want a sense of what was discussed. That's it. Now, if you want to write a thesis statement, go for it. Go for it. But you don't have to, right? Like, put your mind at ease. It should be useful. Same thing with the way that a motion is worded, right? You know, I always correct the staff when I see a motion on full board that says, a motion to approve. I'm like, incorrect. I don't know what that is. I wasn't there. I need to know. So Isaac made a motion to approve buying a gallon of milk. Michelle seconded it. I need to know what the motion is. That has to be clear. Me as the reader, right?
Yep.
So the same thing when you're writing your minutes, when we're preparing agendas, when we're scheduling things. Responsiveness. If the staff is reaching out and nothing tonight. Each of the members that's not here, well, except for Xavier told us he was gonna be in the mistake. The other members didn't say anything. Now, so we're here wondering if we're gonna have, you know, quorum. But if you just tell me ahead of time, if you're responsive, if you're communicative, that makes my life a lot easier. And this whole conversation is not about making my life easy. I get paid. My job is, it's about not frustrating me. Right? I'm happy to do my job. I like this work. Or otherwise I would have been left. And I get paid every 2 weeks, so that shuts me out. However, job satisfaction is important, right? If I'm satisfied, if we're satisfied and we're not distracted with chasing people around, then I can sit and read all that stuff that you guys are not gonna read. And I can be like, hey, Michelle, look, here's my summary, right? And then you're like, oh, okay. And then you can pick from that summary where you wanna dive and go deeper. As opposed to, here's the environmental assessment, and it's 1,400 pages, no one's gonna read it. Right? Then what was the last thing? Oh, the partnering with the staff, yeah, so I hit everything. So those are like, that kind of stuff, and you know, we could get into a million other examples, but there's no point, try to keep it positive. That helps a ton, and you'd be shocked how often we do not get that cooperation. We just don't. We just don't. You know, I've chased him, we've chased you, I've chased her, chased him, chased her, chased her, chased him. I'm like, oh, the hell is wrong with people? Your predecessors, your successors, like, Marlene, what's the agenda for human service? I haven't heard back from Isaac. I'm like, can you please call Isaac? Because I need to send out the newsletter. Right? Let me give you an example. Right?
That's true.
If I don't have it that Friday. So what I'm trying to achieve for you. Is I'm trying to make sure the board has given proper public notice. You don't have to think about it. I got it.
Yeah.
But I need you to give me the agenda so that I can do that. So what we've done is design this, schedule this thing about this newsletter. I'm like, okay, look, another scheme to get them to comply, them being you guys. If I set a deadline of, it's not on that agenda, if I don't have it that Friday for the newsletter, your meeting is canceled. Then that's a motivator, then I get it. Right, the canceling is a lot of bark, because I don't have the power to cancel. But I'll throw the thread out there. You know, and sometimes it works. You know, it's, and it work, you know, and the importance of that is that now we're communicating to the community. A community that wants to say, you're operating in silence. You're not here for us. And I say nonsense, and I always have said nonsense. I'm like, here's your newsletter, here's your website, here's your cards, here's your pamphlet, here's the meeting, here's the recording, here's the. I'm like, you can talk all the smack you want, it's only smack, but. I'm talking smack if you're not equipping me with the information I need. If I have it, I'll cover it. I'll be the defensive line, the offensive line, I got you. But if I don't have that information, then I'm at a disadvantage, and now I'm catching strays from people coming in, talking nonsense, and I turn around, I go to my records and I don't have it. There isn't an agenda. We didn't have a meeting. The thing was canceled. So like, those are, now I'm prattling on, but yes,
No, thank you. And I think, I know there's a lot
I
of.
didn't serve you the whole time. You started there and then I stayed there.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say, I know there's a lot of these elements that touch our roles as chairs specifically, but I just think that, like, in my view of how the board gets better holistically is by us doing these baseline things with the staff and showing up to our meetings super prepared, super knowledgeable, and then it's embarrassing for someone else on the committee to not be prepared. And then it's gonna, I would hope that, you know, all these things that we're talking about just help to make sure that people show up and are equipped and want to do the work. And if not, they go away and we bring in new people and we, you know, we just are trying to get to that point, right? We want to show up for the community. We want to be, you know, looked at as capable and aware. And one more thing from me, Joe.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I just want to come back to what Ashley was saying. Somebody else said about vice chairs. This is always happens. Every committee, doesn't matter who the chair is, doesn't matter who the committee is. Get a lot of lazy members. They hide under, I'm shy, I don't know, nonsense. You applied, you're a member. They're quiet. So then all you hear is the chair's voice, because the chair has to talk.
Right.
And then the next meeting comes, and the next meeting, and the next meeting, next thing you know, you only ever hear Jason, you only ever hear Jessica, you only ever hear Ashley. And the members just get quieter and quieter and quieter. That ends up being then a burden on you. Because now you're not only are you the only one talking, you're the only one thinking about it. And it shouldn't be that. There's a whole group of you here. You should all be jumping in. Hey, I know, I got that. No, I know the answer to that. Oh, actually, I have a question. It's supposed to be a deliberation. And that's something that's always lost. It's been lost the whole time. The whole time I've been here, it's lost. It happens to every chair, loud chair, quiet chair, tall, short, it doesn't matter. It happens all the time. We had this, she's legendary. You might have heard her name, or I don't know if you know her, Frances Mastroda, right? Frances Mastroda is a strong person. A strong personality. She's New York. She talks loud. Cares about her material. She was the parks chair, 3 chairs before Jessica. You would come to her meeting, the meeting is packed. Agenda is full. Minutes, action items out the wazoo, tons. But it was her alone. You would come to that meeting, you wouldn't hear anything but her. And then people would jump on, oh God, Frances is terrible. She just dominates. No, the whole committee was doing this. I'm like, Chuck, I said, well, what do you think about it? And, hey, what do you think? And then talking. Or she would say, hey guys, we're gonna do a walk of the gardens, and you know, on Saturday, I'm gonna be at Marcus Garvey, or I'm gonna be at the Esplanade. You know, we are advocating today for the Esplanade, seeing stuff on the Esplanade because of that person. But literally just her. Literally just her. They voted because she asked for a motion. And that was a drag on her. She didn't want it to be like that. She wanted to deliberate, but people wouldn't say anything. People have to speak. You know, Ash mentioned about the vice chair thing. We tried and like, oh, if we make the budget committee all the vice chairs, it'll give them something to do. If we make the vice chairs responsible for the minutes, it'll give them something to do. And then the vice chairs just found a way to not do the minutes. The vice chairs found a way to not be helpful at all on budget. So we flipped it, we're like, forget it. We need doers. Otherwise the work's not done. Or people will come half-baked. That was something else. So the budget conversation, no, you have to be interested. It's not a light topic. It's a lot of consideration. It's not just the numbers, it's the policy that goes with it. And prioritization and consideration of other factors. you gotta be thinking and you've gotta be engaged. Like, you can't just have one person doing it. And that's, how do you, as chairs, motivate, encourage your members to participate and help you do the work? It's a lot more fun when the whole committee's talking. It's a lot more interesting when the
Yeah.
whole committee's talking. Right? Like, a disadvantage that I have is that I work here, I'm not a member. It pays better. But I wanna get into these conversations, but I can't. The way that I talk on my own time. So I'm like, ah, man, I really wanna get in the weeds on that one. And I'm just waiting for you guys to like, you say something now, and it just and it should, right? Cause there's like so many interesting things. So like, I don't know how you guys can figure it out to motivate them. Like, hey, like, you know, oh, maybe a plea, hey, guys, I need your help. I need your help, I need you to talk. You don't have to be shy, don't worry about being an expert, no one's an expert. I'm not an expert, if I was an expert, we wouldn't be paying George. Right, I do what I can, and then I lean on him, because I'm just not gonna be that encyclopedia. It's never gonna happen, and my brain doesn't work that way. But then I lean on him when I can, and the other things that I work as hard as I can, or I ask, hey, Nilsa, how does this thing work about it? Or Marlene's experiences in child welfare. I know nothing. I lean on her all the time. So maybe figure out ways to motivate your members to be more engaged, to speak up, and to like not worry about being expert. You know, chairing, I've told probably all of you that I've had a role in orienting you to being a chair. I always say, all you have to do is lead the discussion. That's it. January, you lead the discussion, you'll be better in February, you'll be better in March. By April, you're an expert. His predecessor was his cousin. Like, oh, I don't know. Don't worry about it. Start, facilitate, work. By the end, it was a monster. It comes, you know, you like with anything else.
I won't keep us going on this, and we have one more item on the agenda, but, thank you, Angel, for your feedback. And I hope that we can continue to talk about this offline. The next and final item on the agenda for new business is bylaws. And I think, so we've been hearing, you know, there's confusion about, attendance, there's opportunity to make things more clear. There's opportunities to do, some other things while we're talking about it. We've heard some ideas. I just want to open up to it.
Alright. I think based on like what we've spoken about attendance. I think we should make it, I know we've explained a lot what has been said multiple times. I think it's honestly a little bit too lenient. I think also when we bring people in to discuss their attendance, like we said, we have a history of not voting people off who should be voted off. I think we should start considering like attendance from the previous year and this year when we're doing this, when we're voting people off, because let's say we have someone come in who we brought in last year, and now they're here again, and it's the exact same time. I think we should start considering that, because at that point, it's a pattern. And yeah, and also with the, based on what we spoke about earlier, the elections for officers. Is it, this might be a really ignorant question, because I have read the bylaws, I just don't have them right in front. Do officers have to maintain a certain amount of attendance also? Like, shouldn't it be a little bit stricter for officers and chairs? Because the person who we just like voted to come in is, I'm pretty sure, an officer. And they have horrible attendance. So is there any way that, I know we vote in officers and stuff like that, is there any way that they can maybe be considered to be taken off as an officer? Yeah. I'm not saying like punish people, however, it's getting to the point where
Hold them accountable.
every year.
Elsa?
No, I was, Asher has echoed, something that I've said for years about previous attendance and how the same person comes in 3 and 4 years in a row. And we don't look at that, so thank you, Asher, for saying something that I brought up. I think that if people keep their attendance up, then we wouldn't have to, right, remove them from an elected position. However, I agree with Asher that if you're voted in because the board had confidence that you can do the work. And the fact that you are not doing the work in your absences, maybe that's something that could be said as a matter of form or maybe noted in the bylaws. You know, and even looking at the positions that we have, which is something that I used to say before, you have an assistant treasurer. Well, what are the qualifications, right, for treasurer? Like you should understand at the very least how to do a city budget. And what does that mean? And a lot of people that we vote in have no knowledge, and I know because I've been doing city budgets for 25 years. And I hear and the expectation, even understanding what the office does, the district manager does, and how he does the budget and what the responsibilities are. It's not our responsibility to manage this budget for the office. It is the district manager's responsibility to manage that. And it is the treasurer's responsibility to let the board know, right? We don't have to give $500 for each committee to do that. That's at the discretion whether the budget can support it and we don't have something else that is needed in the budget. Where there's this idea that the city budget, we're giving money to give out those dollars. That is not how that works, right? We have to justify. I think that in light of the term limits that were mentioned, there could be a conversation as to whether the January to December term, is that the best term now? Because when the bylaws were done, there was no term limits. Whether that, the proper attendance for, officers, and having an honest conversation, whether the structure that we have actually works. Do you need an assistant treasurer? Do you need an assistant secretary? Is there something else that should be considered? And if you still need that, then what is the responsibility of those lines? It can't be, to help the secretary, okay? Or to help the treasurer. That there's just a lot of things I could go on, but I'm not going to.
No, that's really helpful, thank you. Asher, and then
All right,
anyone
now
else?
one more comment, and this isn't targeted towards anyone. This is just what I have seen since my time being here. Is also are not, and this goes back to not being able to do the responsibilities that the board gave you confidence to do. I don't think that we should be, I'm not saying people can't run for office, this is not, it's just however we've seen with multiple people that they have disappeared. If you're running for office, like a public, like an actual like elected office, that's fine if you're here. But I think the problem lies where we've had too many people run for office and then they disappear and then they come back. We can't run effectively if our leadership is just disappearing. And Jessica, I appreciate what you have done with district needs and budget. However, that technically wasn't on you. That was supposed to be the treasurer's job. And the fact that you're running it's good, but it shouldn't be, we're changing too many rules to make accommodations for people.
So this is, just to be clear, no, I guess I'm clear on what you're saying. So what we're just doing right now is just talking about the ideas of what sort of things we're thinking about in the bylaws that we want to change. Yeah, I do agree with combination of both of what Ashley said and what Nelson said. I think there should be some we should look at patterns to some extent, but I think more I was thinking about more, and this is hard to say because like Jason said, the chairs do most of the work, but I do think if you do say you're going to be a chair or you're taking some leadership position, then you should be held to a higher standard. So you can't be absent that many times when you're leading a committee, because then like you're the reason we don't got quorum. Not even anybody else, is you. But also it's like you're not in the lack of presence. I think also with the second part of it, and running, when you're campaigning, you don't have the time to be present. And I think especially this community board, especially with the types of discussions we're having about members, I think really is it really is a product of a lack of leadership, in areas where they could be given support. Folks could be, I think there's a lot of areas where chairs could be given support more from the chair. The committee chairs could be given more support from the chair, which I think would trickle down to a culture of support in more ways. But I think the absence and I'm trying to be nice. But I do think that there's something to that, not being able to be present, and perhaps there should be some, hey, if you are, you shouldn't hold, a chair or vice chair position if you are actively running for something, so that we can ensure that whoever's sitting in those seats are actively paying attention on a daily basis to what's going on. Because especially in a time like this, where we need to be as responsive as possible, or at least paying attention as much and on one accord, that can't happen if, folks are not present. So I do agree with, that, and, if it has to go by, if it has to be us changing the bylaws to just prevent those things in the future, then it is what it is.
And I think it should be all officer position. I'm hesitant because we have seen people who are officers still be present. I will give the credit to the few people, because there has been people who are still present. However, if it's a majority, we can't make the exception for the one minority who is doing what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I do, just a point, I think that being on a ballot and being an officer, like the end of last year was very difficult for me personally, because I did not have support and I did not have the ability to do the things that were necessary to be done in that time. So being sort of stuck without any option to make changes is not a great place to be. And I think there's some common sense things that just like, even if I was considering leaving the board for good, I would hope that, that we could make positive changes and a quick reassessment of the bylaws over the next month. I don't have the ability to appoint a bylaws committee. So I think what we can do is, we can like maybe use these ideas to create a draft and bring it to our next executive meeting. But go ahead, Jason.
You know me, I'm always giving you tools. Resolution. You don't need a bylaws committee to change the bylaws. You can read, it's in the bylaws. We've changed bylaws without a committee. So to that point, though I'm not in agreement with any of the comments that were made, with all due respect, because if you read the bylaws, they take care of a lot of those issues. But I will question what was it, the elected thing that they were talking about, somebody running for office? I wonder that, because I'm working off memory, but I do remember some type of, again, me and Nuss were on the bylaws that you have now, we wrote them.
Yeah.
Many moons ago, but I remember that being a stressor. And I don't know if we ever got on top of it, but I do recall that being considered a conflict. But now that as I'm speaking out loud, I'll double check it. I think it's, you can't use the board to campaign, as opposed to, who am I to stop you from running for office for whatever it is that you want to advocate for, or you running for office, the legal aid society. I'm not saying to any individual, I'm not making it personal. I'm just thinking about it out loud. That was because I do recall there being some language in those laws about when a board member is conflicted, and if it doesn't matter office or title, we're members first. So if we violate the law as a member, yeah, I agree with some of the comments here about chairs, about that it should even be effortless. That if you're an elected, oh yeah. I mean, let's be honest, the day Rosa misses an absence, she came in, guns blazing, not to make it personal, as the secretary. I highly doubt that her attendance isn't being scrutinized by the lowest, whatever status or perception of the member on the board, if that makes sense. Meaning that regardless of their involvement, if they feel like they're always attacked by this person, and I think that's kind of what I don't want to see is like tit for tat, as opposed to running an efficient and qualified board, if that makes sense.
No, but, I remember when I was, a chair, running for chair, one of the questions came, if you were, let's say, like a district leader or something like that, could you be on the board? And the answer was yes, that you could be. Now, whether we wanna have discussions as to, whether it's healthy for the board to have leadership, whichever leadership, whether it's me or whatever, based on my position, having to have some kind of process where, let's say if I was the treasurer and I decided to run the city council, which I said no to, but, right? Then all of a sudden, let's say if I said yes, that I take the responsibility because there may be a conflict. I don't know, and you and others may be, that there's something that says for that point in time, we still have to maintain good attendance and do everything that we were going to do. But if we're doing this to avoid the impropriety, as Jason said, of having an elected position, like I'm the treasurer of the board, but I'm running for city council, where it gives the position I may be running for, almost like if I'm an expert, that I could use, as opposed to just saying, I'm part of a community organization that works to empower the community with different situations and stuff like that. I don't know if we can restrict, that's a good conversation to have, and not everyone will be up to that kind of thing. I was one of those that
Yeah.
I was real, I can tell you, I'm real funny about the impropriety or looking in a certain way. I'm not an expert and I'm not gonna give that impression. But there may be something that doesn't go contrary to the bylaws where someone doesn't step in like you had to, but you don't have the other ability to then make the decisions that you're fitting in. Right. Something has to be outlined or something and run it by the legal. Yeah. At the Manhattan Borough President, what could we do in those instances, getting guidance?
I do wanna get us out of here, so any last comments on this?
It was more the attendance when people were running for office. I probably phrased a lot a little bit too harshly. It's because, like you said, if people disappear from leadership, how are we supposed to run effectively? We can't if we have people disappearing, so yeah.
Tyler?
Yeah, I still think that I think that, I'm trying to just, I wish Mr. was there, because I'm trying to understand the differences between if I'm a treasurer running for a position, inadvertently, me being on the community board holding that position helps the seat I'm going for. So it's not like I don't have to blatantly use that as a footstool to go somewhere, but I hold the position. So it inadvertently is. I think the conflict is more in that if I'm not able to be present and do the work that I need to do as the chair, and that is not just, I think that this may also be a reconversation of the chair responsibilities, but I think the chair responsibilities should certainly incorporate a lot more leadership and interaction with with committee leadership. So I just think that it's just, we doing all the work, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, but I'm gonna keep it 100 from my perspective. It feels like we do all the work all the time. You know what I mean? So it's,
Thank you. Michelle?
I do agree with Isaac that we do have 2 full-time positions and some of us probably more when it comes to having the community board as part of our lives. However, there are elected officials that are running for another position, and maintaining their original position. And being that we are set up as the grassroots of bipartisan politics, that we mirror what's happening with elected officials. And according to what they're doing, they are holding one position while vying for another. But they're still supposed to be able to do their job. So I'm in agreement with Asher that if you are able to be present and vested with the position that you're originally with, and it's not impinging on the position that you're going towards, I would agree with that.
Alright, so some of the things that I heard, just to reiterate, attendance to me more clear, consider attendance across multiple years. Potential for officers and or chairs to be held to a higher standard, either for attendance or not doing the job, like a treasurer, for, as an example. Adjusting the election cycle to the appointment cycle, removing potentially the assistant treasurer and secretary positions. Considering that potentially an elected official, is someone who's on an elected official ballot is, you know, maybe not able to serve as an officer position. And adding or considering the chair of the board responsibilities as it, you know, we have chair responsibilities for committees, we have vice chair responsibilities for committees. What are the chair responsibilities of the board?
So we know like when to go to the chair. if he needs something.
Yeah, what does the chair do? How does the chair support the committee?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially as it relates to, if you're assigning people to committees, you've had first contact with folks. How are you working with committees to ensure that, like, if you put a person on Ash committee, they don't ever come, can we talk about the decision to put them on this committee before it gets to 4 absences? You know, maybe this wasn't a good decision from the beginning. Things like, you know, it's just a lot missing, and
Just one more thing.
We'll close.
I think that if people are requesting to change committees, they should be required to reach out to the chair of that committee first and not necessarily get moved on to that committee without saying anything to the chair, because at least I can say I have a person being added to my committee now who I have no problem with her being added. However, the problem is the person showed up to my meeting and didn't make clear that they wanted to join the committee. And especially if my committee is working on a lot of stuff right now, it's like, how am I gonna, is it a good decision to put someone on the committee when we're working on stuff? So, yeah.
The only other thing I want to add is, the consideration of term limits. I know we have term limits for, officer positions. If we want to consider reducing that at all, or if we want to consider term limits for chairs. I think right now, obviously, that maybe seems like a bad idea because we're the ones doing all the work. But, you know, ideally in a perfect situation, you know, maybe Jason's chair for 4 years and the vice chair steps up their chair for 2 years and they have to go somewhere else, but somebody else is already in the pipeline, has been training with these people over years so that they're able to step up. Like, maybe that's more of like a long-term goal, but something to think about. Any final thoughts before we close?
Well, what you said works with historical data and preservation.
Yeah.
It's not just abolishing the term limits, like I have people come. You know, will I support the abolishing of the term limits? No, I don't. I'm comfortable with the 8-year and 10-year, and that's just for this, you know, cycle that it falls in. Because other people in this community have to serve, and to have someone on a board for 20 years, and may not add that value, but just has it on their resume that they're, you know, doesn't do the community justice.
Angel, and then we'll close.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate your input.
You guys said term limits so many times that it reminded me so. So, as it relates to term limits, yes, like, Nilsa is saying, that's relevant now with this new application cycle. So when term limits were passed via that referendum or the charter revision, they were set to begin with appointments in 2019. 4 terms of 2 years. The exception being for appointments made in 2020. That cycle would get 5 terms of 2 years. And then 21 back to the 4 years and then forever. I have some questions. With regards to how this is applicable. And I have been reaching out and in communication with the Borough President's Office since last summer. To confirm how the term limits would be applied under different circumstances. I haven't gotten the full clear answer yet. We have had some conversations. The last conversation, I was told something that they believed was accurate, which I do not think is accurate. And I'm gonna give you an example. One of my questions was, how do term limits begin for people that were appointed to complete in the middle of a term, appointed in the middle of a term? So let's say, I leave in the middle, I have a year left, someone's appointed to take my place. Does the clock start then? Or does the clock start with my first 2-year appointment? The answer I received was then. I find that hard to swallow. So the board memberships are split. Plus, we're supposed to be 50, well, there's 50 slots, and there's 25 slots appointed even years, 25 slots appointed odd years. If you do that 1 year thing, you gotta throw that balance off. So I'm not sure that they have that right. And I'm concerned because we have a couple of members that fit into that category. We have quite a few members that fit into that category. They were appointed in 19 to 1 year terms. That's gonna create confusion. Another thing, and I'm not blaming this current Borough President's Office, because I think this error happened before they came into office. We have a couple of members that were odd year appointments and odd year reappointments. That then from 1 year to the next shifted to an even year. And it's relevant because I know it sounds all geeky, but it's relevant because since the error happened in 2020, 2019 into 2020, their clock would either go until 2027 or 2030. So if this is calculated incorrectly, they could lose 3 years of service. So not trying to create more confusion for everybody, but I think it's relevant given that we're starting to see that. Like you guys were mentioning before, there's some members that were appointed in 19, no, sorry, is it a 19 appointee, right? And so she's up 27. Right? But there's other members that fall into those categories, right? Of like, is this like my initial outreach to the VP's office was, I think I have a pretty good grasp on it, but I'm not 100% sure. And I need your help to be 100% sure, because I was thinking that I was gonna start getting questions from members. I'm like, I need to have the right answer. I don't wanna say left and it's right. So that's, to this moment, I think it's still kind of up in the air. And we have quite a few members that are kind of in that. I think it's 10 that are 19s that are 1 years, and 2 that fell into that. They shifted from odd to even. That's all. So I'll report back because I'm continuing to press the issue. Oh, so I did find some information on my own. So I went back to the city charter, which I hadn't done before. I went back to the city charter to see the language. And it says 4 full terms. So the full term is 2 years. I sent that back to the VP's office. I'm waiting to get from them confirmation that we're on the same page, because then that clears stuff up. But until I hear that, it's still up in the air. So when I hear that, I'll report back.
Thank you. And it's, the term limits things are important to Nils's point. If someone is running for an officer position whose term ends, it is not in alignment with their service term. And there will need to be special elections or other things that need to be considered when one, if not all of the officers of a board are suddenly, not available for the last 6 months of their term. All right, we'll end it there. Thank you, everyone. We'll do roll call.
Was out from Reynolds absent, Stephanie Williams was absent, but then Briha. Rosa Diaz,
Present.
Jessica Elliott,
Present.
also Rama.
Present.
I'm
Maria
here,
Paris.
sorry.
I don't. Asher Rodriguez.
Present.
James Douglas absent, Isaac Scott,
President.
and Maria Garcia is absent, Jason Villanueva,
Present.
and Michelle was present.
And I am present.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Ending at 8:00.
Can't believe it.